The year is 2700 BC. A great flood has just ravaged the land, leaving behind a salty sea where once mighty rivers flowed. But this would not be the end of this region, not by a long shot. From its ashes will come one of the most magnificent civilizations in history, home to the world's first city, the world's first great library, and the cradle of human culture. This was Sumer, the land between the rivers, and it was here that man made his first steps towards greatness. An Eridu, each with their own patron deity and kings. The cities would constantly wage war on each other, shifting the balance of power back and forth, although it would only last for a couple centuries. Eventually, one city would arise above the others. Uruk, Ur was the largest city in Sumer. Most of Sumerian literature was religious in nature, often detailing the many gods of Sumer. They had a pantheon much like the Greeks, with each god controlling various aspects of nature. There was Enki, the god of wisdom and protector of mankind. There was Enlil, the god of wind and storms. And there was Ninhursag, the earth goddess and mother of mankind. Soon, the island became a melting pot of cultures from across the world. Although Sumer would live on in name only, its influence would live on for centuries to come. Personally, I think the truth is somewhere in between. Chances are they came from somewhere else and migrated into the region during the last ice age. They brought with their knowledge of agriculture and technology that allowed them to thrive in a place that would otherwise be uninhabitable. These innovations allowed them to produce a surplus of food, which led to the world's first city, the world's first great library, and the cradle of human culture. Sumer was a special place, a place where humanity truly began. Sure, many Sumerians were killed and enslaved, but others likely did integrate into the new society. After all, the Sumerians had done the exact same thing after conquering the Akkadians. The Akkadians adopted many of their customs, including their writing system and pantheon of gods. The Assyrians and Babylonians would do the same after conquering the Akkadians. Even the ancient Egyptians kept a Sumerian god, Amen, in their own pantheon. Goods from China, India, Africa, and Europe passed through Dilmun every single year, making it unimaginably wealthy. But this wealth did not last forever. Sumerians believed that these gods interacted with humans on a daily basis, so they built giant temples throughout the land to honor them. Its size alone made it a logistical nightmare to govern, so a new system of writing was created to keep track of everything. The sides were slanted at such an angle that when viewed from afar, it appeared as if the temple was floating. A series of bad harvests and internal conflict had taken a heavy toll on the population. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another video. Thanks for watching. But how did this little-known island kingdom become so rich? Well, it was likely due to trade. You see, during the time of Sumer, the monsoon winds were a well-known phenomenon. Once a year, strong winds would blow across the Persian Gulf, allowing ships to travel quickly from Mesopotamia to India. There, they would trade for luxury goods like gold and ivory. Then once the monsoon season ended, they would head back home empty-handed, hoping to make enough profit to make up for their losses. People fled to neighboring lands, including the mysterious Dilmun, which was located on an island to the east. According to legend, it was here that the legendary king of Uruk, Gilgamesh, came to defeat the monster Hum. But unlike Gilgamesh's other exploits, this one may very well be true. Ancient texts describe Dilmun as a land full of riches, where the streets were paved with gold and the houses were made of precious metals. On the top sat a shrine where priests would commune with the gods. To get there, they would climb up a series of ramps hidden within the structure. Every day, the priests would make offerings to the gods, usually in the form of livestock. Then at night they would sleep in the temple and wait for a vision from the gods, which they would then use to tell the future. This would be the world's first writing system. At first, writing was only used for record-keeping and trade, but soon it expanded to include literature, mythology, religion, and history. Sumer is located in what today is southern Iraq, and at the time the entire region looked vastly different than it does now. The king at the time was Gilgamesh, a demigod who ruled over his people with an iron fist. He is said to have codified laws, constructed temples, and made trade agreements with neighboring civilizations. Many believe he was responsible for the creation of the Epic of Gilgamesh, a series of stories about the adventures of the titular king. But he is most famous for constructing the largest ziggurat ever built, a pyramid-like temple tower dedicated to the patron deity of Uruk, the goddess in the Mediterranean Sea stretched all the way up to the Persian Gulf, covering the whole of Mesopotamia. At its base were administrative buildings and a school, while on the top sat the priest's living quarters. Once completed, Gilgamesh addressed his people atop the ziggurat. He announced that he would continue to expand the city until its walls reached the mountains and the sea. But sadly, Gilgamesh never saw this come to pass. While fighting a neighboring tribe, he was killed, taken out by a stray arrow that struck his knee. With the king dead, the empire fractured and once again fell into the hands of warring cities. The fertile soil of Sumer allowed these early humans to farm their own food. They grew wheat, barley, vegetables, fruit, and dates, which led to an explosion in population. Large settlements sprung up across the region, but there was a problem. Water could bring life, but it could also take it. In Sumer, The flooding was so bad that it would erase entire villages from existence. So, a massive construction project was undertaken to control the rivers and protect the land. During the last ice age, much of the Middle East was covered in ice, forcing people into smaller habitable zones. Canals were built to lead water to faraway fields, and giant reservoirs called basins were built to collect rainwater, which would then be released gradually to maintain the flow of the rivers. For the first time in human history, people worked together on a massive scale to control the environment rather than simply adapt to it. It was a risky strategy. If the dams broke or the irrigation canals were destroyed, thousands would die. But risk they did, and it paid off. This innovation allowed Sumer to produce more food than any other civilization in history, making it the perfect place for even more people to move to. Soon, millions of people lived along the rivers. As the glaciers melted at the end of the Ice Age, rising sea levels drowned the Fertile Crescent. All that was left were two river valleys, the Tigris and Euphrates, which happened to be in exactly the same place as the two biggest ice-free regions in all of Mesopotamia. The two combined to form a single super-region, a land shaped by water, both blessed and cursed by it. People had lived in Mesopotamia before, but it wasn't until this point that they began to flourish. All across Sumer, giant walls were built along the rivers, canals and irrigation systems to distribute the water for farming and store it for times of hardship. By 3000 BC, several city-states dominated the landscape. There was Kish-Lagash, Uruk-Lagash. Uruk was a trading hub, controlling both the northern and southern halves of Sumer as well as all trade coming from the Persian Gulf. The ziggurat itself stood at around 80 feet tall, made entirely out of baked brick. While some of them would go on to dominate the region once again, none would reach the heights of Ur. Thousands of clay tablets have been discovered near Ur, containing everything from love letters to royal decrees to the earliest known piece of fiction, the Epic of Gilgamesh. These ziggurats were massive, square-based step towers made out of mud brick. But it wasn't all good things in Ur. By 2350 BC, the empire was in sharp decline. This golden land was located somewhere in modern-day Bahrain, an archipelago of islands situated in the Persian Gulf. As soon as the Sumerians heard about this, they immediately set up a port city on the coast of Bahrain to capitalize on the trade. In 2285 BC, the Akkadians invaded Sumer and put an end to the Sumerian civilization. What happened to the Sumerians is unknown. Some sources say they were completely wiped out, while others say they assimilated into the population. So while Sumer was indeed the cradle of human civilization, it wasn't the cradle of the Sumerians. So there you have it, the amazing story of Sumer. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.